Okay, so what kind of projects can you best work on when you have a limited time and budget? That is the question we're talking about today. And additionally, an extra question, follow-up question, so you can also improve your skills as much as possible. Right? Because that is the most important part, right? So if you have a limited budget and you want to avoid spending many months or even years working on one project, like for example the developer of Hoops FPS, which we'll look at later, then let's discuss how you can quickly build up your skill level as a game developer by working on specific types of projects. Okay, welcome to this Game Dev Topics. Now, for those of you that are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Christopher. I make videos that give you insights into the game development process, both from a AAA and an indie perspective, and how you can become a better game developer on a whole. I also have a website where you can ask me questions or also request like one-on-one support and feedback sessions completely for free. Doesn't cost you any money, no subscriptions, no chargebacks, no sales funnel or anything like that, just me helping out other people, right? So this Game Dev Topic was suggested by someone in the YouTube comments of a previous video I did. And so I want to thank that person for the suggestion. But I also wanted to let you guys know that if you want me to discuss a certain topic or answer a certain question or anything of the kind, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below, or in the Twitch chat if you're watching live, or in the Discord, which you can join on the Twitch page, or you can join it through the description below the YouTube video. Or if you're reading this as a blog post, you can join it with the link down below. But, hey, hello. Oh, you have a difficult name. I'm going to say NYSTUSZX. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate you. You have a hard name, I'm sorry. And then, oh, hello, Jaguvari. Also, thanks for the follow. Hi, welcome to the stream. I hope you guys have a great time. We're just diving in, so you're perfectly on time. So, yeah, I'm going to continue going. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'll discuss them right after we go through this topic, okay? So, you might be wondering, what is the purpose of focusing on projects that you can complete with limited time and limited budget, right? What is the purpose of that? Well, let me tell you, when you are trying to become a indie game developer, you are likely to make the exact same mistakes as the next person and as the previous person and everyone else that's going to try it as well. One of the mistakes I see most often is focusing on your dream project, spending many months or even years working on it, only to realize at the end that it sucks, right? Now, I love the enthusiasm, I do, because it's really great to be enthusiastic about it. But by doing this, you are severely slowing yourself down and slowing your progress down, okay? Because in a previous stream and video that we did, we talked about the fact that your first 20 projects, at minimum, will simply suck really badly. And this is okay. This is absolutely fine. Because with every new project that you pick up, you will learn something that you can use in further subsequent projects, right? That makes sense, right? Every time you pick up a new project, you will learn something new, which you're going to use in future projects, okay? So the point of working on these kinds of projects that you can actually complete is to build your skill, right? The point is to build up your game development skill in all disciplines, across all phases of a project, from concepting, pre-production, production, release, polish, release. That is the point of focusing on projects that you can complete within a limited set of time and a limited budget, okay? Because at the end of the day, right, let's list out all of the things that you need to be able to do as a indie game developer, right? You need to be able to design the game. I'm talking about game design. Design the game. You need to be able to create the 2D and 3D art assets. You need to be able to program the game functionality, You need to be able to create and implement SFX/music. You need to be able to manage your own time and progress. Very much an underrated skill to have, and something that a lot of people get completely wrong, but different video for different time. And you need to be able to also do the marketing for your games, right? Marketing for your games, right? Now, the best way to learn all of these things, and this is still really high over, but the best way to learn all of these things is through doing many different types of projects that you can actually complete, right? It'd be much better to learn these skills through 22-month projects, 2-month projects, rather than 3 2-year projects. Forgive my typing. Rather than 3 2-year projects, okay? And we'll get into exactly what it is in a bit later. But for now, I'd also like to mention, hey, Starberry, how you doing? Yeah, that. And I'll also like to mention that this approach is very good for developers who are serious about becoming good indie developers, right? This is not good for people that are trying to get rich quickly. Because if you have that attitude, this is not the job for you. For many different reasons, but getting rich is definitely not up there when you become a game developer. Okay, or at least not very likely. So, this is the purpose of doing these kinds of projects, okay? Now, in order to learn, in order to know what kind of projects to focus on, you need to know what kind of aspects make projects essentially impossible. And thus unsuitable, right? And I've made a bit of a list, right? Because if we think, okay, we want to stick within a limited budget and we want to stick within a limited time, let's say 2 months. I think 2 months is pretty reasonable time frame. We need to avoid any project that has any of the following aspects. Anything open world. It's a big no-no. I'll explain why in a second. Anything in the 4X genre. So stuff like Civilization, Humankind, the Endless series, which is also... I'm trying to think what the studio name is, but it's fine. The Endless series. Anything like that, even though they're all great games, you as an indie developer, big no-no, okay? Then most RTS type games, stuff like Total War, it's just insanity. Anything in the hyper-realism simulation genre. Then I'm talking about stuff like Farming Sim 2022, I'm talking about Flight Sim, I'm talking about games like SnowRunner, stuff like that. And then semi-realistic survival games. Now, I am not saying that this is a complete list, but these are some of the most common things that I see come by on Reddit, but also in the Discord and stuff like that, where I'm like, yeah, these aspects alone will cause you to either not finish your project, or it'll cause you to spend months upon years trying to finish the project, and thus really being in your own way. Because you might be wondering, why is it, why are specifically these aspects instantly eliminated if you want to learn as much as possible. They introduce a level of scope, otherwise known as workload, that you as a starting out indie developer simply cannot even begin to understand. This is not a dig at indie developers, because they're some of the most creative people that I know. But this is still true. This is definitely still true. Because let's talk a bit more about scope, because I feel like otherwise we're gonna go off track too much. So scope equals the amount of time it takes to complete your project feature in said project, right? Normally speaking, scope is represented by story points, agile principles, which is an agile principle, right? But to keep this simple, because I do really want to keep it simple, because agile is a whole nother box that I'm opening in a different video. To keep it simple, we measure scope in amount of hours it takes to complete the work, right? So when we do that, and when you start working on any project as a beginner indie game developer, you will essentially not be able to understand how much work it is to really complete the game, or even a specific feature like implementing the main menu or a shooting mechanic. If I asked anyone right now, how much time will it take you to implement a main menu, I can very quickly weed the more beginner indie game developers from the more experienced ones, because the more beginner ones will tell you 3 hours, right? The more experienced ones will say, well, that depends on what is in the main menu. Is there a settings menu? What kind of functionality needs to be in there? Are there like many animations or particle effects that need to be in there? They're asking all these kinds of questions because they've done it before, and so they understand, at least to some degree, the scope that's involved in making the main menu, right? So that's like the one trick I use to kind of figure out how experienced someone is. And so all of the aforementioned aspects, so like the open world and the hyperrealism and survival games and stuff like that, have such an incredibly large scope due to those specific aspects that you will not only not be able to understand how much work it is, you will also work very hard trying to finish it, oftentimes spending many months or years learning, in the end, very little or much less than you could have done due to the small amount of repetition you're doing, right? Because everything is new, right? And so you're doing everything a little bit, and you give it as basic as you can, right? You give it a sort of like a performance pass. But if you keep doing it over and over and over, and you start practicing, that is where the real progress comes from, right? And by doing one super large project, you are not doing that, okay? So then that begs the question, what kind of projects are better suited for learning as much as possible in the shortest amount of time? Now you can tell I've changed the question from what we started with. We started with, what kind of projects can you best work on when you have limited time and budget? In essence, it's a flawed question, because what you're really saying is, okay, what kind of projects can I best work on that won't waste my time, where I will learn a lot and where I don't have to spend a lot of money, right? And so it's much better to then change the question to, okay, what kind of projects are better suited for learning as much as possible in the shortest amount of time, right? Budget is kind of a automatic follower based on shortest amount of time. And for this, I first thought, okay, I could be vague and just kind of like give you a list of aspects to look at when you start developing your own game. But I feel like that would underrepresent the importance of this. So instead, I made 4 example projects. I've written them down on what I would recommend doing that will teach you the basics in every single discipline that you need to know in order to start working on your big dream game, right? So let's go through those. Jesus, I can't speak. I'll also explain afterwards which skills you learn throughout these different projects. But I've basically scoped these projects based on 2 months, limited to no budget, and what's it called? Basically limited to no budget, and something that you can make, which will teach you the most. Okay. So the first one, let me copy it over because typing it out would be pointless. A 2D platformer, either made through Unreal's Paper 2D system, Unity, GameMaker, Godot, take your pick, that focuses on smooth movement that players use to complete obstacle courses throughout 2 levels. 2 levels, not more, 2 levels, okay? Then, the second example, first going through all the examples, and then we'll talk about exactly what you learn from these. The second example is a 3D platformer, ideally built with Unreal. It is simply the standard of the industry, with a bird's eye view camera, behind the player, focused on the player jumping from platform to platform, dodging and jumping over projectiles that are sent their way from the turrets that are placed in the 3 levels, right? 3 levels. The third example, and I love this one. I might work on this myself at some point, but I love this one. A 3D casual game, again, preferably developed through Unreal, but if you really want to pick Unity, that's okay. A 3D casual game where you play as a waitress on rollerblades, I like to add, trying to deliver all dishes on time to the restaurant customers. The camera perspective is free to choose depending on what you think is best. The player can also upgrade the speed of the waiter and the amount of tips they get whilst playing throughout the 3 levels. Okay? Now, I would like to opt, if someone decides to make this or something like this, I'd highly recommend calling it roller waiters instead of rollerbladers. I just think that's excellent. I think that's funny. None of you think it's funny, but I think it is. So, anyway, and then the last example that I have, I'm going to slightly turn the music down. There we go, because it's just a bit too intense for me, which is mostly down to me, actually. Hold on. There we go. All right. Then the last one is a 2D platformer. Either, again, through Unreal Paper 2D, or Unity, or GameMaker, or Godot, where you have to travel through the level towards the end to stop the spawning of enemies that are coming to destroy you and the town you come from. There are 2 different types of enemies, and there are 2 weapons that the players can use in order to complete their objective. The maximum average playtime to complete the game is 15 minutes. Okay? Now, with those 4 examples, I know that in all of the above projects, you can see, hopefully you can see, or you can start to understand, that I'm really limiting the scope already, right? 2 levels, or 3 levels, or maximum 15 minutes playtime. There's only so many upgrades, or only so many types of weapons. You know, all of those choices I've made for you are essentially ways to really limit the scope, allow you to actually work on something that you can finish and release and get feedback on and learn stuff from. So that you can get to your dream project, which then hopefully doesn't suck as much, or doesn't suck at all. That'd be even better, because you have the experience built up, okay? Because I think that if you successfully complete the above 4 examples, right, taking about 2 months per game, give or take, you will become a much better developer in a much shorter amount of time, okay? And by following this path, you'll be able to work on your dream project within the next few years and actually be able to complete it instead of working on it today and taking years to complete it, only learning that it sucks because you didn't spend enough time actually learning the skills you needed. And that brings me to the fact that I skipped something, but it's fine. Cool, we'll just continue. Because that brings me to the skills you learn through the above 4 projects, right? I've made lists. I'm a big fan of lists. I'm a producer myself, so lists are my lifeblood. Essentially, there are specific things, because these are just not 4 random examples I've come up with. These 4 examples specifically focus on teaching you a lot of things from different disciplines. Okay, so we're going to go through it per discipline. In the game design discipline, right, which is what I also am, through the above 4 examples, you will learn how to design good feeling, movement, and camera, right? You will learn how to design levels. You will learn how to design informative UI. You will learn how to design player progression. And you will learn how to design difficulty curves. Right? Throughout the 4 projects that I've named earlier, you will learn all these things easy, right? And so if you extrapolate that out, we're talking about 8 months worth of development time. That's very little. That's from now until the end of the year, roughly, give or take. If you can learn all of these things in game design, you are like 600% ahead of anyone that right now jumps into making their dream project, okay? But that's not it, because we've also got programming. Of course, we got programming. My favorite type of people to work with, because they're always so social. So that's a lie. Some of them are actually very social. They're actually very nice people. Anyway, in programming, in a programming discipline, you will learn how to make gameplay in both 2D and 3D, because there's big differences there. You will learn how to create functioning UI, also a very important part. You will learn how to create AI, basic AI. You will learn how to integrate data tables. Yeah, and I'm gonna stick with it until that. And especially for the last one, depending on the engine you use, data tables might not be called data tables, it might be called something else, but the essence is that you learn how to integrate set data into your gameplay loops, okay? So that's for programming. Now, for art, which is also very important, you will learn how to make 2D and 3D art assets. You will learn how to do basic animations. You will learn how to make particle effects like that. You will learn how to deal with overlapping assets, especially in 2D. This is a big thing, and it's a really great learning point. And you'll learn how to do lighting in 2D and 3D, because as some of you might know, and especially if there's any artists in chat, you'll definitely know this, you can make great art assets, but if your lighting is shit, then that's a real shame of the great art assets you've made. Okay? Now, but we're not done yet, because we've got 3 more disciplines to run through. That's right, you are doing a lot of different things as an indie developer, so learning all of these things is mega important. SFX and music, right? You will learn how to create basic sound effects. You will learn how to implement music and looped tracks. You will learn how to deal with sound attenuation, right? You will learn how to deal with sound randomization, and you will learn how to deal with the sound cache, or cache. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce that word, but it's fine. Then in terms of management, and actually I should do myself proud and call this production, because that's what it is. As for production, you will learn how to manage your own time and progress, and you will learn how to identify and manage risks early on. Okay. Then for marketing, the last one, you will learn how to create promotional assets, and you will learn how to contact your actual target audience instead of fellow developers on Twitter, right? So, for those of you that stuck with me through that, thank you. Through the 4 mentioned projects, you will learn all of these skills to a basic degree over the course of 8 months-ish. I hope you see that that is much better, especially because you're doing this repeatedly. You're doing all of this 4 times. I hope you see that this is a lot better than focusing on one project for 2 years and then maybe not touching some of these, and also you're never practicing them by redoing it, and so you'll actually end up with a much worse skill set at the end while spending well over twice the amount of time. Okay? I hope that's clear from this. Because that brings you to the conclusion of this game dev topic. Okay? Because if you have limited time and limited budget, I highly recommend working on some of the above projects to first really improve your game development abilities before diving into more complicated projects that will take longer to complete and will no doubt require a larger budget, like, for example, your dream project. Now, after having had this talk, are you thinking to yourself, I would love to talk more about these kinds of topics. Well, I've got news for you, because on the Twitch page, or in the YouTube description if you're watching this as a video, or on the blog post if you're reading this, but then you can't hear me, so it's fine, there's a link directly to the brand new Game Dev Topics Discord server, where you can join and you can talk to fellow game developers, but also you can talk directly to me, ask you questions, ask for feedback, all of that kind of stuff, really easily, basically around the clock, except for when I'm asleep, because I do like my sleep. And that pretty much ends of the video. So for the YouTube audience, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you learned something, and if you think I deserved it, click the subscribe and the bell icon. If you don't think I deserved it, all good. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see each other next time. For the Twitch audience...